Hello everyone, this is Inayat Mir with a new lab implementing failover clustering Windows Server 2012 R2. So these are the live steps. I have a lot of emails and a lot of messages that I supposed to add audio on this video. So think in this way, I am going to do a voiceover. So the topic of this lab will be configure a failover cluster, deploy and configure a highly available file server, validate deployment of the highly available file server, configure cluster aware updating on the failover cluster. So let me give you a quick scenario also. As a Datum's business grows, it is becoming increasingly important that many of the applications and services on the network are available at all times. A Datum has many services and applications that must be available to internal and external users who work in different time zones around the world. Many of these applications cannot be made redundant by using NLB or network load balance. Therefore, you have to use a different technology to make these applications highly available. As one of the senior network administrators at a Datum, you are responsible for implementing failover clustering on the Windows Server 2012 R2 to provide high availability for network services and applications. You also can pause the video and look at the scenario, but I'm just describing to you. This video will be a little bit quick format. Let's complete the scenario. You are also responsible for planning the failover cluster configuration and for deploying applications and services on the failover cluster. So as you can see, we are using a DC1, SVR1, SVR3 and SVR4, 4 servers in this lab. So just disregard my message which says that you can follow along this lab. If you still don't want to hear audio, you always can go and take off the voice. Take off the audio. So I'm going to log into LON-SVR3. So that is the server name which I'm going to go as a domain administrator. So domain name is datum.com. So we are going to open iSCSI Initiator. We can use a server manager from tools. You always can initiate iSCSI Initiator, which is available from Windows, Vista and all future operating systems. So from here you click on your Discovery tab and you look for your iSCSI target server. So this will be the IP address of my iSCSI target, 172.16.0.21. At this time, this will be target. So 21 is usually an IP address of LON-SVR1 as a very useful practice in these labs. So you can put IP or you can put host name. When you refresh the tab, you're supposed to be connected. You also can see steps under the bottom of this lab. If you easily can read those steps, you can. Otherwise, that is the one other reasons that I am adding audio in this video, so you can visually see that video the way you're supposed to see it. So you are going to connect to iqn.199191.05.com, Microsoft, and then server name. So you are seeing now the message says connected. we are moving to LON-SVR4. You can log in again as a Datum administrator to this server, and you are going to initiate again iSCSI Initiator from Server Manager, Tools Server Manager. It takes few seconds to get refreshed. So iSCSI Initiator is always available on all operating systems from Windows Vista to current client and server's operating system. Now you're gonna go to Discovery again, and you are going to add same IP address 172.16.0.21, and this is the default port 3260, which you can see. And you will constantly see that I am typing some notes or some commands there. Here I am looking at the connectivity with that IP address. So -A is a switch that will tell you the server name. So as I said before, LON-SVR1 is a server where I'm going to show you. That is the server which has IP address ending with 0.21. You can verify, log into that server and can verify the IP address. But we must have to be familiar with all of this environment. So at this moment, you can figure out that iSCSI target is your LON-SVR1. So here I am not installing or removing anything, just showing you that iSCSI target is a role which was installed for this lab purposes on this server. I am also typing in case there are some people who still do not have audio. Technically, you can create iSCSI target server first. Then you can go and use iSCSI target from iSCSI Initiator from other servers. So I'm going to cancel this one just to let you know for this lab purpose. Yes, iSCSI target role was installed on LON-SVR1. We approached from LON-SVR3 and SVR4 to iSCSI target server. So here is the way you can add your virtual disks like a storage. You can see disk 1, disk 2 and disk 3 already created on this server on E drive, 3 drives. So these 3 disks will be used for failover. So this was all a pre-lab work which was done for this lab purposes. If I would say we should add these steps with the lab, that could be more understandable for those who do not have any background in SAN technology, in fiber SAN or in iSCSI SAN. So we are working with iSCSI SAN arrays or technologies, same concept, better and cheaper money wise. So you spend less money, you get more benefits, and you also can use RJ45 cables and network cards, replacement of your HBAs and fiber cables. We are back on LON-SVR4 where we left over. I was just explaining that we do have an iSCSI target available. Here you are again going to connect with this IP from iSCSI target, so you can use that storage from LON-SVR1 as a client or from iSCSI Initiator. So you have to refresh. So we are connected from both servers, from SVR3 and from SVR4 to LON-SVR1. We are going back to LON-SVR3. From computer management, you could see those 3 drives are available. We have to bring them online. Then we have to initialize the disk to format. MBR is a master boot record and GPT is a GUID partition table. We use MBR if we are using a 2 terabyte or less drive in space. Now we can create a simple volume. Very generic visit to create a simple volume. We are going to accept the default letter, and a volume label we can use data. So this drive will be E drive and volume label is data. We're gonna have a quick format. We are going to repeat the same process for disk 2 and disk 3. So first drive is formatted, 30 gigabyte drive E, and volume label is data. Disk 2 and disk 3 we will format, and the volume label we will use a data 2 for disk 2 and data 3 for disk 3. And our job is done once we have these 3 drives available. So we have configured these 3 drives. We created partition on LON-SVR3. This is the third one, the last one. We are going to move back to LON-SVR4 for the same procedure. But once we go there, I will tell you that we do not have to go through all because we are using a same disk array. So we have now E, F, G, data, data 1 and data 2 partitions available, formatted, online. So here we are all set. Now we do not need computer management. Ignore if you see this message because we have already formatted, so just cancel. This is a kind of bug. Even you partition and format the hard drive, you still get this message. So I'm going to move back to LON-SVR4 again. SVR4 and SVR3 are the 2 drives which are connected to SVR1 as initiator to the target. So SVR1 is a target drive. We are going back to computer management on this drive. You can refresh your disk management if you don't see those drives. Now we can bring the disk 1 online. Same way we're going to do a disk 2 we're gonna bring them online, and we're gonna bring disk 3 online. So we have all 3 disks available, and once again keep in mind that we are using a storage array from LON-S VR1. Each drive is 30 gigabyte. And here we have disk 1, disk 2 and disk 3 available. Same drives, same size, from same target SVR1. We just have to bring them online. Alright. Again, because we did data 1 and data 2 configure from SVR4, it is a same array, so when you bring them online, you're supposed to have automatically these volumes formatted with drive letters and the volume label. Going back to LON-S VR3. We are going to use dashboard for add and remove roles and features. So we are going to add a failover clustering feature on LON-S VR3. We have done before Windows failover clustering basic labs. So we have installed this in 2411D lab. So it is a kind of repeat, but we are doing this all from scratch. So you have to understand that in order to have a failover clustering, you have to have this feature installed. So we just have installed a Windows failover clustering feature on LON-S VR3. Then we are going to move towards SVR4. We have to repeat same steps and install Windows failover clustering feature on LON-S VR4. So far what we have done, we installed Windows failover clustering features on SVR3 and SVR4. We initialized 3 disks from SVR1. SVR1 was acting as iSCSI target. So let's keep moving on to the next step, where we are going to validate the servers for a failover clustering. We will create a failover cluster and we will configure CSV, cluster shared volume. Going back to SVR3, and we are going to launch now a failover cluster manager. This is the Windows, first time you got it, and the first thing we do, validate configuration. In real time, it will take more minutes than you will see here. So we are on LON-S VR3. And we are putting SVR3 and SVR4 names. Automatically you're gonna see FQDN will show up. So we are going to validate failover clustering configuration. So we are going to run all tests, and you are not going to watch all of them anyways, just to let you know that. Few glimpses you're gonna see here of this process. And you're supposed to see these all green color, which is a very positive color. So this will generate a report eventually. So there will be a report that you can view in HTML format. If this report fails, this is a report what you see right now. It took approximately 10 to 15 minutes. If you see this wizard fails and wizard does not recommend that your servers are ready, that is a time to troubleshoot. So far we are good and we are good to go. So if there is no error, we are good. Again, few words here in the writing. Yeah, this could take about 10 to 15 minutes roughly. But again, most of the times I pause my video and let it run the process on background. So the next thing what we're gonna do here, we're gonna create a cluster. So now you see that we are able to create a cluster. So there is a visit which we are going to run to start create a cluster visit, and that is where we have to provide a name for this cluster and IP for this cluster. So this create cluster visit we can do from 3 different places, by right clicking on the context menu, or you can go through the option from the bottom middle, and you can go to the action on the top right side. So cluster name, server name, sorry, you're gonna put the server name. For this cluster you're gonna have this LONSVR3 and 4, these 2 servers. So these 2 servers we are using for Windows failover. Here you have to provide a cluster name. So we're gonna keep it simple. Cluster 1 with IP. We have to give them an IP address, so we are going to decide here to put 125 ending address. So we're gonna stay in the same TCP IP network. So 172.16.0.125. So that will be our IP address. And just look at the information, see how many nodes we are using. We're gonna use 2 nodes, SVR3 and SVR4. So this will be a 2-node cluster with 3 drives running on L1-SVR1, and this is done. So just disregard this pop-up if you see any, or I will try to write over or overwrite this pop-up. With that, I'm adding lab. I'm adding audio on this video, which I'm doing at this time. So I am just trying to explain the whole detail about this video. So we are done with create a cluster wizard. And the next thing we're gonna add disk to cluster shared volume, or CSV. So this is your create cluster wizard. You always can go scroll down, click on any row you want to go in details and read the information. Once you're done, you just can close. Alright, so you can read, and whichever server you are using, whichever domain you are using, everything will be captured. So you will be able to read that information. So I would say that spare few moments. Look at this information. Once you're done, close it. Then you are going to add a disk to CSV, cluster shared volume. So we are going to then open FailOver cluster manager, or use FailOver cluster manager, where you can expand your cluster 1.datum. You can expand storage. You can click on disks. After you expand storage, you're gonna see disks. In the right pane, you will see the available storage. So this is your available storage. You have 3 disks. You can see this, the assigned to column. These are the storage, available storage column. And you can right click and add cluster shared volume to the disk where you want to add. So we're gonna choose disk 2. We have a cluster disk 1, cluster disk 2, and cluster disk 3. So we use a cluster disk 2, where we are going to add a cluster shared volume. Once you highlight the disk, you can see on the bottom information keeps changing. So currently I clicked on disk 3, which is F, disk 2 is E. Now is E because I clicked on disk 2. And Quorum disk witness, which is right now disk 1, was automatically got selected. So you are going to now adding a disk 2 to the cluster shared volume. And you can see assigned to status changed to cluster shared volume for disk 2. Just verify the assignment, and this part is done. So we just have validated the servers for FailOver clustering, created the FailOver cluster, and configured a clustered share volume. The next, we're gonna go and do deployment of I could say a file server application to the FailOver cluster. We will add a shared folder to highly available file server and configure FailOver and failback settings. And quickly, let me look at the scenario. In a Datum, file services is one of the important services that must be highly available. After you have created a cluster infrastructure, you decide to configure a highly available file server and implement settings for failover and failback. So now we are going to move on from server 4. And we are going to use dashboard for add roles and features. So we are going to install file server role. So file server and roles and features will be installed from this visit. So most of the storage related features or roles are in your dashboard. In fact, almost everything is in your dashboard. So that is where you can install roles and features, and you can also remove. You also can use manage from the top right side for removing a feature. So now we made L1-SVR4 as a file server. So you just have seen that we installed a file server role on L1-SVR4. Going back to server 3. We are back into our failover cluster manager. In the failover cluster manager, we are going to expand our cluster. 1, we went to storage and disks. You can see those 3 disks available. One of them is a cluster shared volume. So we have disk 1, cluster disk 1, cluster disk 2, and cluster disk 3. These are all present and these are all online. So we are going to start a high availability visit. So we started this visit from roles, and we are going to set a file server role from this visit. So it is a general usage. And we are going to set access point. We're going to give them a name, a Datum FS with IP ending with 130 in the same network, 172.16.0.130. So a Datum FS is I would say access point. It is a name, we call them access point name. And this IP is 130. And set storage cluster disk 3. And we are done with this high availability visit. We just set up this. You can pause the screen, you can review it. If you want to review a report, you click on the review report, you can see it. But yeah, we never had any role before, so we just had this role. We're going back to SVR4 again, or server 4. And we are going to open failover cluster manager on server 4. we are going to start a new share wizard on a Datum FS5. Under roles, you see a Datum FS. We will right click on it and add file share. We're gonna set SMB share quick. That is a profile, so we're gonna set a profile to a SMB quick. That is a first option. Under set profile, we will accept the default server path and we will set the share name docs, DOCS. I will leave this path as it is. Share name is DOCS. We do not want to make any change on the permissions, and we do not want to have this access based enumeration available. So we will leave it as it is without any change. And click on next. And we will create. We can click on create. So we have created SMB share and we have assigned permissions, which were the default permissions. Now we can open it out of FS properties. And we can set to allow failback timings. Go to right click on a Datum FS, go to properties, and here we can set allow failback timings on FailOver tab, which we are going to choose 4 to 5 hours. So we can check the both boxes LON-SVR3 and LON-SVR4 as preferred owners, and we can move LON-SVR4 up from down. Just highlight, click on up button, it will go up, and this part is also done. So we just have added the file server application to the FailOver cluster, added a share folder to a highly available file server, configured FailOver and failback settings. So as you said that, you see that, so you have this configured yourself. And it's time to move on. Now we are going to validate the highly available file server deployment, validate a FailOver and Quorum configuration for the file server role. So in this process of implementing FailOver cluster, you want to perform FailOver and failback tests. Also, you want to change the disk witness in the Quorum from the default disk to your choice. So we are going back to the DC1. We logged on as an administrator. and we are going to look at the share, Datum FS. So there was nothing in that share. We just created that share in previous steps, but we can add something. So we just used a UNC path for that share name // Datum FS, and we are going to put this document in that share. You can put anything, you can type anything you want to in this text. And once we close this one, we can go back to SVR3 or server 3. And we are going to look at the roles and the current owner. We will see that who is the owner of this role. SVR4 by default, by looking at, I can see the SVR4 is the current owner. You look at the column owner node, you can see who is the owner at this time, because you remember that we switched the server 3 to server 4. So now you can go and look at that owner is SVR4. You can right click on SVR4 and choose move option to select a different node. When you click on move, you will see the select node option. Here you can see LO and SVR3, or could be SVR4, could be SVR3 currently, because we already have enough owner SVR4, so we will see SVR3 only. We saw it and we actually changed the owner, and you could look at the owner node tab now. That shows you now current owner is SVR3, or you can highlight Datum FS and look at the bottom screen and you will see who is the owner. Going back to DC1, after verifying who is the owner, and you can go and use same / Datum FS, and that will bring up this docs share. And the document is there, and whatever we typed was there and is there. Even we have a different owner, so this owner is now different than before, but wherever that FS or file share is, actually it keeps moving on by owner or owner by owner. So you can switch back to now LO and SVR3 where we are right now, and we can verify who is the current owner. So it could be SVR3 or it could be SVR4, and we are aware of it that because we are switching between owners. So we're supposed to know who is the owner. Moving to the next step. So we are going to stop cluster service on the owner node. We just did. So owner node now is stopped, and we should see the owner now. A node could be moved over to a different node. But no matter where it goes to, we should have a document there, and we should be able to read the document. So now owner node is 4, even we moved to 3 before, but 3 is down, as you can see. But the other thing is that users are not aware what is going on. You can see SVR3 and SVR4. SVR3 is not up, but your file server node automatically switched to 4. So that is basically a concept of failover. So if one node is not working, second node is taking place. So you can bring both back. So we just saw that how it switched between two nodes. We verified from both sides. So now everything is up and good. So we are going to take a look at the disk quorum. It is called a disk witness in quorum. So here, disk witness in quorum is offline. We took it offline. Now we are going back to the DC1. And we are going to verify that we do have an access to a Datum FS. We can see the docs folder. And we should be able to still access because cluster is still running even if the witness disk is offline. Switching back to L1SVR3, we can bring the disk back online from the storage and disks. Just browsing around looking at that, but you can go to the storage and click on the disks and you will see these are the multiple options which I am showing you from the context menu, which are possible of which you can bring and use. From more actions, you always can configure a cluster disk quorum. So this is a configure cluster quorum visit. This is the select voting configuration. You can view it. You can go back and look at the steps you just have performed. Because we are going to choose disk 3 as a storage witness for now. So currently we have a disk witness, disk 3. Click on next and finish. And your result is visible on the screen. As you see this pop-up was recorded earlier, so just again ignore that one. So we just have completed few things. We validated the highly available file server deployment, validated the failover and quorum configuration for a file server role. We're gonna continue to configure CAU and update the failover cluster and configure self-updating. So in this scenario, we can read that. So in previous Windows Server versions, implementing updates to server with critical services result in unwanted downtime. To enable seamless and a zero downtime cluster updating, you want to implement CAU feature that test updates for cluster. So CAU is a cluster aware updating. So we went back into now our domain or DC1, and always we're gonna start any role and a feature visit. We actually go and start from dashboard. So we are going to add a failover clustering feature here as well on LON-DC1 and all required features. And all we have to do next and finish. So we do have now failover clustering feature on LON-SVR3, LON-SVR4 and also on LON-DC1. Going back to LON-SVR3 now, because we have to open some firewalls. We're gonna do some configuration under the Windows firewall with advanced security. So we are going to verify some inbound rules and some rules for like inbound rules for remote shutdown enabled. So let's verify that. From the inbound rule, we are looking for inbound rule for remote shutdown, parenthesis RPC-EP-in. So we want to verify that this rule is enabled. And we see a green check box not grayed out. That's mean this is enabled. And we also need to verify inbound rule for remote shutdown TCP-in, TCP-in. So it is just a verification. If it's not configured as open, green check box, it is grayed out, we simply can right click and it should let us make it available. That we just see that here TCP-in version, and I just right clicked and enabled it. So now we are done from this part. We can go back to LON-SVR4, but just we're gonna close this one, this server first. So we just verified these rules on SVR3. We are going to do the same on SVR4. So this is just a verification. Once we verified, we can go back to LON-DC1 and we will work on CAU, cluster aware updating. That is where we're going to do after that. So we are good here. On SVR4 we are good, SVR3 we are good. And we're gonna open now cluster aware updating from our tools menu. From here, from server manager on DC1, and we're gonna connect to cluster 1. So cluster 1 is our cluster name. We're gonna connect to that. And we're gonna preview updates for cluster 1. And we are going to now generate an update preview list. So far you see not available. You can look at the right side from the action menu. So we are going to generate update review list. It would take few minutes, but you would be able to see the list, and this update will be displayed in the list. So it says generating updates review list, preview list. So you're gonna see updates now coming up from SVR4 and SVR3. You can see now these updates are. Update preview list is now available to see it. Now we can close and we can start cluster 1 cluster aware updating visit. You can see these advanced options. We are not going to set additional options. We're going to update cluster. So we have to click on update. And in the cluster nodes pane, you can review the process of the updating process. So remember that one node of the cluster is in a waiting state and the other node is in restarting after it is updated. So wait until the process is finished. This may require a restart of both nodes. The process is finished when both nodes show succeeded in the last run state column. So again, this is a little time taking. Once this all is done and updated, then we can move to SVR3. And we're gonna look cluster aware updating on L1-SVR3. So the process is running at background. And you can see the description, you can read the description. And I hope you got the concept, you got the idea. So I read this whole detail for you as well, and I said it out loud so you can understand the process, how it goes. So you will see the dates on that. So these dates are the recording dates, not the audio updating dates. So we are good to go to LONSVR3. And we are going to use cluster aware updating on 11-SVR3. So we don't need so far our failover cluster. At this time, I'm going to fresh login back. I'm logging into a Datum domain as I always do. From every client, I logged in as a domain administrator with all full rights. And now we can open cluster aware updating from tools menu. I don't want to reboot anyways, so I want to avoid reboot. So let's go to cluster aware updating and bring up cluster 1 to connect. So you're gonna start cluster 1, configure self-updating options. Okay, it started rebooting. So getting updates. So I am back after this sudden reboot, connecting back to cluster 1. And using a self-updating option. Configure cluster self-updating options. Now we can click on next, and we're gonna add CAU clustered role with self-updating enabled. So you're gonna check the box. And click on next. We can set up a schedule for 4 a.m. in the morning in next step. And we can choose weekly 4 a.m. and day of the week could be Sunday. And we're gonna accept the default options from next tab. So we're gonna change to Sunday, then click on next, accept the default option from advanced option. Nothing to change. Additional updates, nothing to change. And we're gonna apply these all changes. You can scroll up, scroll down, review it. Once you update your options, then you will see adding CAU clustered role with self-updating enabled. So we are almost done with all steps. Success. So we configured a cluster aware updating, updated the failover cluster and configure self-updating. and all is good. Alright, so I hope you understood this lab. So I have my email also available to you guys and everyone, and I have a PDF available. You can request for the PDF. So I'm going to close this recording now. So this was a pre-recorded video. I had a voiceover in this video, and I'm going to repost back as was requested. Thank you so much. This is Inayat.